Woman who climbed the Statue of Liberty and had to be helped down here. She said she would do it again. We have all these run-ins that cabinet members have had with protesters, on and on. Sarah Sanders being escorted out of a restaurant. And then, of course, the ICE protest, where Democrats are claiming that ICE should be shut down and return to what it was before ICE came around in 2003. However they might be resonating with the party's base, some are beginning to wonder whether it is alienating the party with the American public. The read from Democratic strategist Antoine Seawright, Trump 2020 Campaign Advisory Board member Harlan Hill, and from the Independent Women's Forum, former New York Congresswoman Nan Hayworth. Nan, begin with you then. What is the fallout of some of this stuff?
Well, I know from having been in political campaigns, the temptation to pull stunts and get attention is almost irresistible for people who feel passionately. But clearly, the American public, if you look at Rasmussen's polling from last week, among likely voters, the American public is not on the side of those who cry out to abolish ICE. They actually want to see, including, crucially, the independent voters, want to see enforcement of our laws. They agree more closely with the position of the Republicans and President Trump. So I don't think this is going to benefit the Democrats at all.
So the hard left charge, you were getting into this last week, a week before. You think it could boomerang?
Yeah. The Democrats, they have a power vacuum in terms of the messaging on the Democratic side of the aisle right now. And stepping in to fill that void are some radicals on the very far left, people that are talking, and they've been marching around this, about abolishing profit, abolishing prisons, abolishing cash bail, abolishing borders, abolishing ICE. And if the
That was just Antoine.
No. And if they are able to capture the Democratic base's heart and energize them in a way that moderate Democrats are not, this will spell doom for them in a general election. That may win primaries by activating the most radical voters, but that does not have mainstream appeal in the midterms, and it certainly will not have mainstream appeal in 2020 against the president.
What do you think?
Neil, I think everybody should calm down, take a deep breath.
What do you mean?
For my Republican friends, Neil, there's a wonderful song by the Williams brothers that says, "Sweep around your own front door before you sweep around mine." And the truth of the matter is their party is in turmoil.
And they were all Democrats.
They have to decide whether they're going to be the party of racism, bigotry, and hate, or they're going to be the party of fiscal conservatives, or they're going to be the party of Donald Trump, or are they going to continue down the path of being the party with no absolute core? I think they have to make that
when
decision.
6 out of 10 Americans, just general Americans, are bold on this subject because they're getting rid of ICE and say no.
Now, I'm gonna
on that issue alone, do you think that the Democrats risk being out of step?
So let me tell you what I feel about ICE. Number one, I think it's very impractical and a bad policy stance for Democrats to say we want to abolish ICE. I think we
That's
have
a bad idea, pushing them too far.
I think that we have fallen for the Republican Party pump fake of fooling us to jump in the air when we should stay laser focused on the failures of this president.
But many of your colleagues are not.
There's a portion of our party that's not. But
they're prominent members.
No, these are people who are thinking about 2020. But here's what I will tell you.
So Gillibrand, some of these others, Governor Cuomo.
No. Some have said we should look at retooling ICE, measuring its effectiveness and efficiency. Nothing wrong with that. But
just to be clear, that's a mistaken strategy.
I'm not saying that. I think we should always evaluate governmental agencies to see if they're efficient and effective. But
not just ICE stuff. Just to be clear.
Here's what I'll tell you about the Democratic Party. We're a big tent party, and therefore there is room under the tent for everyone, including the people who want to be on the extreme.
If you're a moderate Democrat, I don't know. But Nan, what do you think of that?
Well, Antoine, to your point about communities of color, the president's actually made inroads into Democratic support among communities of color because he is for the kinds
Donald
of
Trump made inroads into
including a bump up in his support among Latino and Hispanic communities in the United States. Just recently, that was just being talked about.
Let me tell you about polls. Polls are a snapshot of the current time.
Antoine,
what's hot today can be cold tomorrow in a political poll.
But
you should know this.
I agree with you, but look at employment rates. Among all communities in this country, including communities of color, employment is at record levels. More people are going to work. More people.
Neil and Harlan, those numbers were heading in the right direction thanks to President Obama. President Trump has done a wonderful job of nurturing.
Well, then tell me why you guys don't control any part of that.
passed that
Tell me
President
why
Obama
the
nurtured.
Republicans control the White House, they control the House, they control the Senate, they control the vast majority of the governor's mansions in this country, they control 2/3 of the state legislatures in this country.
happy to tell you
Explain to me how that has happened if Obama was this massive success.
I'm happy to tell you. I'm happy to tell you why, from a pure scientific standpoint.
Okay.
There were 100+ million people in this country who did not vote for whatever reason. We know we have Russian interference into our elections. We know that is the case.
All roads lead back to Russia. They blame it on Russia when you can't make an argument that's compelling.
And
you
the
blame
truth
Russia.
of the matter is, Democrats did not unite the way Republicans
But you're saying you're ignoring polls now. The only thing we have to go on is this sentiment of that the party has gone hard left on this whole ICE thing, and you don't support that.
I think
regrettable move. So the inroads that Ann was also talking about, all the president needs, all Republicans need, is a little bit more Hispanic support, a little bit more African American support, because they typically don't get that much to begin with. And you would then have to argue that would be worrisome for you.
Here's why the Republican Party should be holding close and be very afraid going into November. The fact that there are Democrats who were not as energized as they were in 16. They're energized by 18. We have young people.
Do you think as many are as energized?
Absolutely. I think it's.
Because you're going to need a lot to flip the House.
I think the temperature is a lot different than it was in 2016.
But they're not going to be responding. The broad spectrum of Democrats are not going to be responding to Gillibrand and Warren crying abolish ICE.
And since all this,
listen.
But that's the battle. That's the battle.
One or two people on the choir does not mean that is the.
You got a lot
entire
doing this, guys. I wish we had more time. Blessedly, we do not.